out as a, say for January,
Sure.
we'll let the people, I mean, it's some incentive. It's a good stocking stuffer too.
Okay, sure. All
I
right.
posted on the Facebook a few times. Did you get any sales for the volumes of the DVDs?
Yeah, a few of them. Yep.
Okay, maybe tonight will help because that'll be up on YouTube.
Okay.
I see Todd's joined us.
Yep. We got Todd and Seth are both on right now. Let's see. I can unmute Todd. How you doing, Todd?
I'm good. Yourself?
Good. Good. Well, we can get started with you two if you want. Seth has the whole gang with him tonight.
Pardon me?
Looks like Seth has the whole gang with him tonight.
Yeah, well, he's got young beekeepers there. That's
Good.
what we need. We need plenty of young beekeepers.
Tell them who the beekeepers are. Me.
Todd's already starting to get orders from, he's one of my students, and I've had people contact me. And so it has a benefit being a student over here and then get yourself up on YouTube. So when we get the house full, everybody can give a shout out where they're from, what they're doing, and how they're going about it. I guess we're still a little early yet.
Yeah, we still got about 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe.
Here comes Joe. I done sent a bunch of people up to Joe too.
Yes, sir.
Has the fella contacted you that wanted those 30 packages?
No.
I give him your phone number because he's just north of you. And ain't no need him come clear down here when you can get the packages for him.
How is the sound for me coming in on you guys?
Sounds pretty good.
Okay. Great.
Good. How's mine coming through? Are you picking me up clear?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Because I've got this here. I don't know if you know it. I've got this hotspot,
Yep.
and I'm actually over my limit, so I haven't got my bill yet.
Okay.
Just to get up onto the internet, that's why I posted, donations do help. This is $200 plus the fee every month. And so the first month I'm looking at $300. I had to get off the regular copper landline because it was not working good. And this is a lot faster.
Right. Okay. Good. That should help. You're out in the country enough where you don't have high-speed cable or anything?
Where I'm at?
Yeah.
No, they outdated everything. They don't have fiber optics out here. They're still using copper wire that's constantly broke and waterlogged and everything else. And I checked my speed on the copper, and you checked it one time, and I think it was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And I checked it with this, and it was running 12 to 15.
Right.
So it's a little bit better.
Okay. Hey, Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hey, how are you?
Good, and you?
I'm doing good, good.
Nice of you to join
There's
us.
Tom.
How are you, Don?
Oh, pretty good. You're looking bright and cheerful today.
It's Christmas time, why not?
Good, good.
I don't see any Christmas trees behind anybody.
It's right next to me.
I've got to learn how to do this. I've got an arrow at the top. Is that how I can move that arrow to see more people coming in or what?
I don't know which arrow you're talking about.
It's a blue arrow at the top. I've got about 4 pictures showing, and then there's a blue arrow.
Yeah, if you click the blue arrow, it'll show other people who are on.
Oh, okay. See how smart I am?
Yeah,
That's why I have to have people doing things for me.
Yeah, there's 6 people on right now.
Okay. Well, one thing that I'm going to talk about tonight is plastic foundation, because I've had 2 or 3 emails. I've had a few phone calls and people that had bought nukes from other people or had started and got plastic, and they want to go natural. They want to be able to cut cells out, and it's basically almost impossible to cut on plastic. So I thought I'd come up and give a little idea of what we done years and years ago, and I had a bunch of that stuff actually traded in. is take your frame, take it out and scrape all the wax off so you can melt that down. Then take your plastic frame up to like a car wash and pressure wash it. Take it out of the frame and then get your table saw, change the blade, put you a plywood blade on there. And be sure to have warm plastic. Don't get it out of the garage. It'll be cold, it'll be brittle. Make sure the plastic is at least warm room temperature. And then cut you a 2-inch strip and then insert it back into your frame. Now, what it's going to do, if you live in an area where it's real hot, that's going to give you good strength, because what breaks down a natural comb is the top where the honey band is, and where that honey band is, you've got plastic there. And now you open yourself up for natural drawed comb, and halfway down or 3/4 or all the way to the bottom, now you can cut those queen cells out where you couldn't do it before. It's just something I thought I'd put out there so that people have an option instead of just taking boxes of that plastic and garbage in it. I like to save, repurpose wherever I can. Does that sound like a good idea? I mean, sometimes I'm mentioning things and people say, oh, never thought of that. And the other thing, I was talking to a fellow from Texas yesterday, and he didn't realize just by putting a hive top feeder on top of your beehive, keeping it full of water all summer, you'll actually make between 1 and 3 gallons more honey. The simple reason is all the bees that's in that hive, the young ones, the immature ones, the ones that haven't oriented, they can't fly out. They can't get water. Even if the water's 2 foot in front of that beehive, someone has to bring it to them. By having water there, 100% of the bees going in and out is hauling nectar now. That's the reason you get more honey. And it's just a common sense thing no one's thinking about. And why we got the thing recording here, these are, our webmaster has done these, if we can get a good picture. I don't got my picture up there. Let me get my picture up there. I can see if I'm focusing.
I should have had one. I don't have one ready either.
Oh, there it is. These are very nice 2-volume DVDs, which make a very good stocking stuffer. And you can buy these on the web page. And also, we're going to give one as a drawing, I think, in either January or February. And each person who comes in here, what you should do is get on here, don't be bashful, give a shout out, where you're from, what you're doing, what your intentions is. If you want to sell bees, if you got a web page, now's your shot. You get free advertisement. So let's go down the line. We start with Todd there.
Oh, hang on, he's muted. Hold on. Can you hear us?
Todd's, there you go.
Todd. No, still can't hear you. Nothing. You're
Let's
on mute.
jump over to Tom and then let Todd redo his.
All right, I'm going to unmute everybody here. So everybody else is unmuted. So go ahead. Why don't we, Todd, can you get the thing going yet? Nothing.
Do I have one going? I'm sorry.
All right, Seth.
I'm from Bedford, Pennsylvania, South Central Pennsylvania. My son and I started beekeeping 2 years ago. My son Eric and I 12, and Keith 5. He helped run the smoker sometime. There we had first year we had 4 hives, and last year we ended up with about 15 or 18.
Very nice.
Dad and his brother are all gone. He asked all 3 of them to bring him some Taco Bell.
Who's that? Okay.
Some guy, somebody posted like a bag of 4 bags.
Joe, want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Joe May, Little Bits Honeybees. We started about 2 years ago. Had a hive when I was real young, but started about 2 years ago. Went to Don's bee school down there. Picked his brain for everything we could pick. Going to return in February. we're going to do bees full time. So visit us at littlebitshoneybees.com and on YouTube channel, Little Bits Honeybees.
Now be sure if you're students to plug that there, that you're students, that you took classes here, you got my stock. This is for your benefit too. Help you get yourself started.
Can you hear me now?
There you go, Todd.
All right, cool. So I'm from the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I'm one of Don's students. I've been keeping bees for about 2.5 years now. Have some of his stock in my yard, sell some nukes, and planning on selling some packages this year and start selling some queens.
Nice. And down to Tom.
I'm from the Detroit area. Been keeping bees for, this is going in my 5th year now. Last year I had 25 hives going. My intentions are to get another 25 going in the spring. So take it up to 50 hives. I've got a blueberry farm that I'll be pollinating this spring. And then a local orchard here also.
Okay, we're down to Alan.
Yeah, I'm from Gatesville, Texas, which is a central Texas area. I have 4 hives, and I've been keeping bees for about 2.5 years. My main goal is to increase my hives to about 25 this spring, but I'm mostly interested in honey production.
Cool. All right. Jerry, you there?
Hold on a minute. No, I'm not here yet.
All right. I guess we'll go to Bryant next.
Yeah, I'm Bryant Davis from Polk, Mississippi. I just started with bees last year. Started watching Don and started 1 hive. I'm up to 18.
Wow.
Learning.
Nice.
All right, I'm going in, baby.
Okay.
All right. And I'm Ilyazara. I'm Don's web guy. I'm the Facebook admin. I'm the moderator for this chat. This is my 5th year, and I've got 6 hives right now, hoping to double to 12 at least come spring. And then there's the man of the hour, Don.
Well, I've been keeping bees, and I'm first want to tell you, I don't know everything about bees. I've made a living at it, so I keep bees. And this yard here, we try to run anywhere from 200 to maybe up to 500 hives. We run out yards in within an hour drive on here, and then we run yards in South Georgia. So we're constantly building, selling, and selling. And hopefully all the people that's getting in these chats are learning something. Joe May is actually very successful before he ever come down here. And I even told Joe, I said, you need to save your money because you're already doing it. I mean, but he come down here and he said he even learned something. And the fact that he come down here and then he turned around when he got back and he ended up selling 23 nukes right off the bat. So coming here and learning techniques does help you. I mean, just association with the Fat Bee Man and his stock, and people know the stock is gentle. It's good stock. It'll help your business. And everybody that's got a web page up, they should put their web page out. Mention your web page. I mean, you're going to get more advertising than you realize. And if you was to spend money advertising, you're not going to get nowhere near that. So I'm here basically to help you beekeepers be better beekeepers so that you don't need to buy bees. You should be able to make splits, make honey, be successful without buying a lot of gadgets. You try to keep everything as simple. And even if you don't know a lot about bees, don't be bashful. Ask those questions. A question that's not asked is a question that's not going to get answered. So I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you what was working and what is not working. And I just happened to see somebody, and I made a comment on it, that posted in my Fat Bee Man group. He's real proud of his cedar beehive and his copper top, which, you know, if it works for him, it works for him. But my mother and grandmother always put cedar in the closet of the house to keep bugs out. So number one, when the sun hits cedar, it outgasses. And copper is the best conductor you can get. It might look pretty at a distance, but good luck on keeping bees in there. There's a lot of techniques that people do or put out there that a young beekeeper or an inexperienced beekeeper try these methods and then lose their bees and then get disgusted and lose interest in it. Because beekeeping is not the cheapest thing out there. I mean, it's easy to spend for 1 or 2 hives $1,000 to $2,000. I had a lady come up here a year ago, dropped $3,000 in 2 hives. She could have bought honey for the rest of her life and been a whole lot further ahead. So that's why I'm trying to do these chats. It takes time, but if I can save you some heartache, save you some money, then I've done something good.
All right, we got 3 other people we're going to introduce here. Jerry.
Hey.
There's Jerry.
I missed, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to say?
Introduce yourself, how long you've been a beekeeper, where you're at, all that good stuff.
All right, I'm Jerry Conway. I've been keeping bees on and off for about 2 years. I'm right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. Just got a new web page up. It's the Honeybee Garden. There you go. Happy to be here.
I'll be sure to tell people if you're students that you're a student and you're coming over, you're learning, it's going to be to your benefit. I'm trying to make better beekeepers out of everything. Todd's been here several times, and Todd tells me every time he comes, he's learning something. Jamie comes every time he comes from Alabama, he's learning something. And Jim comes from Texas, and he'll be up here, I guess, in the end of March. And he's been coming here like 3 years now, so he's learning something every time he comes here. You're not going to learn it all in one day.
Okay, what about Linda?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Linda Webster from Camdenton, Missouri. Been a beekeeper for probably about 8 years, but still feel like I'm a beginner most of the time.
Welcome to the group.
Thank you.
One thing I'd like to say is we have a lot of young beekeepers coming in. We have a lot of ladies coming in. We also have quite a few people that have back problems or have some type of handicap. Right now, you should be thinking, do you want to make honey? Do you want to make bees? Is this something that you really love? If it's something you love, don't let anybody tell you you can't make money. Get in it, jump head first, make money. You have to decide right now when you first start, before you get a lot of hives, do you want 8 frame or 10 frame? Do you want all mediums? Do you want deeps? So I'll cover a little bit of that. A lot of ladies come up here, even 8 frame stuff is hard for them to lift. So one alternative is to go 8 frame, all mediums. The next alternative is 5 frame boxes. And I actually done a video about 4 or 5 years ago about, it's called natural beekeeping. If you took a 5 frame box and stacked 5, 6 boxes high, you basically have a tree. It's square, you can work it all the way down. I've had people come here in a wheelchair with a vinyl apron and pick up a 5 frame nuke and put it across their lap and work the hive. So find out what you want to do and pursue that. 10 frame stuff, I grew up on 10 frame stuff back in the early 50s. In fact, I didn't get out of the 10 frame stuff probably until I was in my 30s. And I thought I knew about bees. And I had to relearn beekeeping. Backyard beekeeping is one thing. Making a living at it is totally different. You approach things differently. So right now, don't make the mistakes that everybody else is making, and I've made them too. Listen to people who's successful at it. And we've got people in here right now that is successful. Joe May is successful. He didn't even need to come here. Jerry's going to be successful. By June, July, he's going to be rocking. So the opportunity is there no matter where you live. And I preach one thing when I have students come here. There's 3 people out there in that bee yard that's going to put you out of business. And most people don't know that. It's wouldn't, couldn't, and can't. So eliminate that. You'll be successful.
And then we got Jamie down at the bottom there.
Did Jamie get in here?
He's here.
I gotta move my thing. I gotta learn how to work this thing. There's Jamie. Now Jamie will tell you he learns things when he comes over here, I think.
Yeah, I learned a pretty good bit.
Are you getting any calls? I've been sending you a lot of customers.
I've had a couple of calls so far.
Yep.
And so I appreciate that, Don. I really do.
Well, this is one thing right here that most people don't understand. They think that most people that teach beekeeping, that's so they're in there for themselves. I've sent more people to my students. I want them to be successful. I've already been successful. I make a living at it. And there's enough of the pie out there for everybody. And, you know, I probably sent every student that I've got here, if someone calls me and they're in that area, there's no need for them to come clear down here. I mean, I got 3 students right now in Indiana, and I've sent some to Joe, I've sent some to Matt. In fact, I've sent 3 or 4 out there to Texas. I got about 6 students in Texas. So, Jamie, let us know what your webpage is. You got that up yet?
Yeah.
Good. Hey,
you read that or is it backwards?
Hey,
no, it's
backwards, but I'm dyslexic.
Oh, me. Forkmountainbees.com. So Kelly's been working very hard on that, by the way.
Are those forking bees?
Do what?
Are those forking bees?
We live in a little community known as Fork Mountain, and my wife is actually here where we're at. She's been here literally almost her entire life, and so we love it. We're right around family, and it's just a good environment. So Fork Mountain Bees.
And how many?
Now, how long have you been working bees? And let us know, you know, if you're learning something when you come over here, and how many times you come, stuff like that. Because there's other beekeepers out there, you know, they're probably interested to see. And that way, that's why I gave your phone number and probably half a dozen phone numbers of my other students, because you will say something to that person without me being there and you worrying about it. So whether you say good things or bad things, you know, you could tell them the way it is. You come here and you work. It's not a free ride.
I've been keeping bees for I think it's around 4 years now, and this past January I started going over to Don's, and it's been one of the best things I ever did. I talked to him on the phone a couple times before that, but I'm telling you, it's been a great experience going over and learning and just talking with him. You know, it's very common sense. And I've learned a whole lot. I didn't have anybody to mentor me or show me anything. I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants with a lot of stuff, and started listening to Don and doing what Don says to do. And I'm just going to be very blunt. Don can get you in trouble in a hurry because you'll have more bees and you know what to do with coming out your ears very quick. So it's not a bad thing because you can turn around and move those. But, you better have some equipment built, because if you don't have equipment built, you're going to have money just flying away.
Has anybody told you you can't sell bees?
Oh, you can sell bees.
Oh, yeah.
You can definitely sell bees. I'm going to hold something up real quick that I picked up at our little Dollar General store here close to the house. And I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but Grit has just put out a little magazine. These people that do homesteading and stuff like that, Grit's a very popular magazine. What you don't realize is we're actually having a whole lot of, free advertising right here, because there's a lot of people getting in bees. They're not going to be putting stuff like this out unless there is a huge demand for it, and they have a huge demand for it. So this right here is supposed to come off the shelf February the 13th, and they've already, up here on the mountain, this is a small community, they've sold every issue that was in the stand in less than probably 4 days. So there's going to be a demand out there. We've got to have the bees ready for them. So that's just...
Well, now, I don't know if most of you had read a lot of the posts that's on the Fat Bee Man group. Someone posted that Virginia was giving out grants. Well, a lot of states are giving out free grants. You don't have to repay them. I've got 2 or 3 students in Tennessee, and they're getting a $15,000 grant. It's an outward grant, whether you're successful or not. I mean, you don't have to repay it. That's to buy your equipment, buy your bees, and get you started. So every state has got some kind of program. So that is something to check into. Even if you've got bees now, they will help subsidize, get you going in it. And if you've got 10 hives, right now you need to build 20, 25 nukes because you're not going to keep up once the weather changes.
I got 40 built, Big Don.
You got 30?
I got 40 this week. I'm going to try to build another 30 next week.
Good. Now you need to get feeders going.
Yeah, that's coming up soon. We're going to another trip to get some more.
Oh, yeah.
Just a reminder, everybody, that you are all muted until you need to talk, just so we don't get a lot of background noise and stuff. So you can just unmute yourself when you're ready to ask a question. And if you want to type a question, there is also a chat window you can do at the bottom of your screen. You should see a chat button. So if you do want to talk amongst yourselves or whatever, you can do that as well.
Don, how many nukes you think I got built?
How many nukes you got built?
Yeah, how many you think I got?
Well, the last time I talked to you, had about 160 of them, so you got to be about 500 now.
I'm close to 300.
There you go.
Hey, Elijah, can you share? How do you share a screen on this? Just click share screen to show a picture.
Good question. I haven't done that yet myself.
Yes, you can.
I mean, where is share? Oh, I see it. Yep. So let's. Yep, just click that, and then you click on the screen that you want to post up there. It helps to have the web page open that you want to post right away.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It ain't showing the picture. And maybe this one.
Let me see. Here, I'll try one from Don's web page here. And share screen. Let's see what it looks like now.
Yeah.
Okay, did everybody see that thing I posted?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And now I can't get out of it.
I couldn't get
Someone
out
sure likes to watch Star Wars.
Yes.
I got one thing right now that I just thought of, since we've got a few newer beekeepers, not brand new beekeepers, but if you're going to wear gloves, the gloves that they sell in the bee supply books, I would suggest if you have to wear them, get you some latex gloves, because we actually done an experiment here probably 8 years ago where people had gloves on and they was getting stung, and I was out there with no bee suit, no gloves. And I actually opened a hive and I put my face right down on top of the top bars, and they never even bothered me. And I told the guy, take your glove off and lay it on the top of them frames. And the minute he done it, he had about 25, 30 bee stings in it right away. So most people don't think about it, but that pheromone stays in those gloves. I don't care if you washed them a dozen times. If you're going to make money at this type of beekeeping, it's almost impossible to wear gloves of any kind. So you got to get used to working bees without the gloves. I don't know if that helps anybody, but I thought I'd just throw that out there because some people don't think about it. I've got a lot of information stored in my head. Sometimes it's just got all cobwebs on it, and I have to shake around and get it out there. So when something jars my memory, I throw it out there to you. Jamie knows that.
All right. Anybody have any questions then? Or oh, Joe's sharing something. What are we looking at? Oh, a little bit of sugar there, Joe.
Some moonshiner must have just jumped in here. I'm telling you. All right, there's the secret. You want to make money, that is the secret right there. Sugar. No matter what people tell you that you don't have to feed bees, you want to make money, you want to keep bees, put sugar to them. I've had people come up here, and I call them purists. They're purists. They won't eat meat. They won't do this. And I tell them, yeah, you might be a purist, but if we went out in the desert and you hadn't ate for 3 days, that rattlesnake's going to look mighty tasty. Oh, why buy bees if you're not going to keep them alive? Feed them.
That's 3.5 tons.
Feed them. Don't do like a lot of people, 1-to-1 and all. That's baloney. Open a can of peaches up and pour it. You see how thick it is? That's what you want. If you stop and think about it, you mix 1-to-1 up, the bees spend more time evaporating the water back out of that sugar so they can use it. So why listen to all this stuff out there? That's why I'm doing these little chats here. Little tidbits here and there. Mark them down.
Don, do you or can you use beet sugar versus cane sugar?
Yes, I've done that in South Georgia. It was about 1/4 the cost. I don't know what it runs right now, but the only thing I don't feed is I don't like to feed corn syrup. I haven't done it in many, many years because of the GMO factor in it. But sugar is sugar. In fact, you could probably get on the internet and look around for candy manufacturers. There used to be a manufacturer of Christmas canes. There was peppermint canes, and they used to be in South Georgia. You could buy sugar, broken canes for $25 a ton, and broken round candies. They have, they're busted up. They're not good for resale. But if you stop and think about it, we're adding spearmint and peppermint with our oils to our sugar. So the only inconvenience that we ever had with it is they got a lot of cellophane. You got to strain out or let it soak and let it kind of weep out. Bees will clean up what they can get, but sugar has to be fed to the bees.
Don, so if you're not doing 1-to-1, what ratio do you use?
How are you mixing your sugar now? In jars or in buckets or gallon pitchers?
In buckets. I usually do 10 gallons at a time.
You're
10 gallons of water.
You're doing it in 5-gallon buckets?
Yeah.
I would feed probably a minimum of 1/2 to 3/4 in that bucket with dry sugar and just keep adding cold water until it stirs. Okay. Never boil sugar water. Mm-hmm. Never. People tell you all these strange things, but we feed 55-gallon barrel of sugar is about 500 pounds to 550 pounds. We feed 1 to 3 barrels a week. So we don't do that.
So you're saying don't heat it at all?
Dilute it?
No, don't heat it at all.
No, what is the point?
Okay. I thought it was just to dissolve the sugar.
Did you ever have a glass of Kool-Aid, put sugar in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Stir it up.
Yeah.
All right. That comes up to this point. A lot of people, if 5-gallon bucket is hard to mix, so that's why they want to heat it up. Mm-hmm. Get you a paint stirrer. You put it on an electric drill. You can buy them up there at Harbor Freight or at Lowe's. They're about $3. Hook them on an electric drill, stick it down in the bucket. They have one for a 1-gallon container, and they have one for a 5-gallon container. You stick it down there and just take a picture and hold your electric drill and just keep adding water and stirring it up. Takes about 10 to 15 minutes. It'll stir.
Alan's got a question.
Okay.
Hey, Don, I've just been watching your videos a couple weeks, so I'm kind of new to the way you do things, but I've learned a lot just from watching YouTube. I've got 3 hives that are real strong, and then I have a 4th hive that I captured out of a water meter box in the late fall, and they're doing real well. But when it comes springtime, how many hives do you think I could split out of those 4 and not affect my honey production?
Well, that depends on you. I mean, what are you running, a 10-frame box?
Yes, sir.
Are they a double deep right now?
3 of them are.
Well, what do you mean 3 of them are? You got more than that?
Well, 3 of the hives are double deeps. The one I captured late fall is just a single.
That should be the one you captured last fall. That should be right now in a 5-frame box, 5-frame nuke. As far as the double deeps, hold on to your chair. 15 splits each.
Wow.
Now, you say you want to make honey and you're worried about splitting. Now you got 15 times more honey coming in because you got 15 times the queens that's laying.
That sounds like I need to start building boxes.
If you think I'm kidding you, ask Joe. I'm not exaggerating. Not one bit. Right now, if you got 4 hives and you want to split, make honey, and make bees, you need a minimum of 100 nukes right now.
Wow. Now, once you put those splits into nuke, how long till you move those into deep?
Well, we don't do like a lot of people do. When we make a split, I prefer a frame of just plain honey with a sealed queen cell and maybe a cup or a cup and a half of bees. And when the queen comes back and starts to lay, then I go over to my 8-frame hive and I pull 2 frames out. I watch the bees. They're hatching right in front of my eyes. I drop that in there, give it another 2 weeks, and then from that point, it can go into an 8-frame box.
Okay.
Bees do 2 things. They're not magical. They multiply and they store honey. If they're not doing either one of those, the beekeeper is doing something wrong. So make sure you treat your hive.
From 3 frames.
No, your question.
Make sure I treat them.
You have to treat your bees. I mean, if you want to go as organic or treatment free as you possibly can, the only other way to do it is break the brood cycle by making lots of splits. You could go in there and make 15 splits off that box, wait 3 weeks on them to 4 weeks, and then go in them boxes and split them again. That keeps that mites, you're breaking that mite reproduction cycle. That's the easy way. You want to make money, treat with oxalic acid. Don't treat with powder sugar, because all you're going to do is sprinkling powder sugar on there. I've done a video here on it, and because people read a lot, see a lot, powder sugar is all it's going to do is knock the mites off. They're going to climb right back in the hive, and then you've added an ant problem because you're going to have ants all over the bottom of the box. We don't run screen bottom boards. We don't run inner covers. We don't run metal on the hive, and we certainly don't run queen excluders. You want to make honey, get rid of the queen excluders. You want to make bees, get rid of the queen excluders.
Yes, sir. I don't run any excluders at all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't everybody talks about slowing things down. Last year, or this year, I had one double D 8-frame. I stole 7 frames out on a Monday. Come back in on Saturday, they draw them 7 frames out. I stole 8 more frames. And by the next Saturday, they had 16 frames drawn out in there again, full bees.
Well, that just goes to show you, and I'm not putting words in no one's mouth. If you follow 10% of what I'm trying to put out there, you will be successful. And you have to build them boxes because they're not going to build themselves.
Yeah, I built 150 feeders today, cut them out.
And women could make just as much money out there as a man can. There's no reason it can't. The only thing you have to do is adjust what you're doing. Don't go out and buy a bunch of 10-frame stuff and a bunch of stuff you don't need.
Do you have any comments? Let's see. How do you unmute myself?
You're unmuted.
Okay. Last year, our big problem was swarming. Do you have any hints on avoiding swarm? We had 4 hives, and they all swarmed in May.
The only reason they swarmed is because you didn't work them. If you're going to make bees and be successful, you need to go through your hive a minimum of every 14 days. Because at 16 days, you have a queen cell that's hatching. When you got a hive that is boiling over, that is borderline swarming at any point. And if you wait a month or 2 months, you're losing half or more of your bees, because if that hive swarms and doesn't return there or don't have enough bees left in it, The next thing is you're going to get wax moth. And wax moth is just beekeeper error. That's all that is.
Yeah, I think what we did there is I put enough boxes on top there, but I didn't put enough of empty frames in the brood part of it.
Sometimes you can stack 4 or 5 boxes on top of a good strong hive and they won't go up. For the simple reason they're honey bound. They got a honey band going across there and the queen's not going to cross it. And if she gets where she can't lay no more, she's starting to make queen cells, or the bees are making queen cells because they feel the queen is failing because she's not laying what they want. So go through there. If you don't want to add more boxes, checkerboard them. I've done videos on checkerboarding. That's the main reason. It serves 2 things. It keeps your hive from swarming. You can put blank frames in there, let them draw it out. It helps keep them from swarming on you. It goes back to the 2 things bees do. They multiply and they store honey.
Yeah, Don, once a hive gets into swarm mode, you just about got to pull the queen out, don't you, and put her in a split just to stop it.
Well, sometimes and sometimes not. It just, usually if you catch, well, we catch ours as quick as we can, but, you know, there's people that have a job that maybe can't work their bees, but on a weekend, and then the weekend they plan on working that hive, something comes up, so they forget about it. The bees are swarming that way. But that's the natural way the bees are reproducing. Take advantage of it. And as far as queen cells go, people at bee clubs, all these people that's got all these degrees, they'll tell you the queen cells, it's at the bottom of the frame, those are swarm cells. And up the ones in the middle, those are supersedure cells. You know, the ones at the top, they're no good. I think it's a bunch of crap, basically. It's because I grew up on a farm, and if a chicken lays an egg on the floor, dirt floor in the barn, and it's fertilized, and the chicken sits on it, it's going to hatch. If she goes to the 2nd floor and does the same thing, it's going to hatch, or the 3rd floor. So once that egg is laid and the bees move it around and decide they're going to make a queen cell, as long as the queen originally was mated good, you're going to have good queens. And natural drawed queen cells is far better than all the grafting you can do.
How early in the season would you start splitting?
I usually start checking my hives when I see, I live in an area where red maples come in usually around February. So in February, when I see pollen coming in, I go out and I watch the hives. When you see a lot of pollen coming in, start checking your hives. Either give them room or keep them confined. If you want to make queen cells, confine the hive. Because once they get crowded or they get full of brood, they're going to make queen cells. And see, a lot of people, they read too many things in these books. Grafting, man, everybody got to graft. Right now, if you cut cells out, I guarantee you, 5 hives, you'll never build boxes fast enough to use all them cells. Because each hive, if you're running a 10-frame hive, you're going to have 7 frames in there that's going to have cells, anywhere from 10 to 20 cells in each one. So if you got 200 cells in that box, you ain't going to keep up with it. And what the bees make as a queen cell is far better than any man can graft and move.
Don, how would you introduce virgin queens to a split?
Have I ever done that?
Well, yeah, how would you do it? I mean, I let them crawl in the front. I put them in on top.
It depends on the beekeeper. I mean, I've had hives out there where I've caught the queens out of it, and I knew I didn't have a queen in there. I mark mine. You know, I use bricks to mark mine. So when I have a hive that don't have a queen, and I come on a hive that has 4 or 5 cells and one hatches in my hand there, I'll move it over and let it walk in the front door. Because usually within the first 24 hours, the queen is kind of neutral. There's no pheromones on it. They're not going to reject it. But, you know, bees do what bees going to do. You know, nothing is for sure down in stone.
Yeah, I've done it all 3 ways, and I've had them keep them and I've had them kill them. So I just didn't know if they was preferred.
If you look at the wings, you look at the coloration on the body, you can usually tell how old the queen is. And if the queen looks like she's about, 5 hours old, got good color, the wings are look dry, they're looking, good, put her in a cage, stick her in the hive, wait 24 hours, then come back and release her. Direct release.
That's what I've been doing. I've been hatching a bunch of extra queen cells in an incubator.
Yeah.
I know how old they are.
Well, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, as you probably already know. It's just everything is trial and error. What works for you might not work for me. So, it's just there's nothing set down as a rule, and the bees follow those rules.
Any other questions? Come on, speak up, anybody.
Everybody's bashful.
I have one. I was watching you last week, and you talked about bleaching frames to kill the wax moth eggs. Do you have to rinse them off then again before you put them back in the hive, or do you just let them dry out and put them back?
It depends on how strong you're making it. I'm usually using a 5-gallon bucket, and I fill the bucket about 3 inches from the top, and I put a cup of bleaching there. And I soak them for maybe, it depends if they're old frames and they got a little mildew on them, or if they're discolored. Those things, I might soak them for 15 minutes, and then I turn them over and soak the other side. And if you want to make sure you don't have wax moth eggs, the holes that go up and down the sidebars, get a number 8 nail and run it through there. That's where your buildup of wax moth eggs. In fact, I just done a video on judging wax where I show you perfectly good looking frame that 99% of beekeepers would use. And I show you how I judge it, looking sideways down it. If the rows are nice and straight, they're all uniform, they're not elongated, then you still run that risk. If the bees haven't been on that comb long, I pulled the cleat bar out, cut that wax out, and showed underneath the cleat bar that would look like pepper. That's wax moth eggs. And if you just put a packaging, you're running the risk of, you're already starting with things against you. I don't think the wax drawed out is as good as what people say it is, because I've done hives out there where I've tried it. I put them in on packages, put a packaging on stuff that was drawed out from the previous year and stuff on brand new comb. The stuff with the brand new comb was drawed out faster, better, and looked better. And I'm sure my students have seen it coming down here and have experienced it themselves. I mean, if you go into an established hive and put a new piece of foundation in there, whether it's a starter strip or a full sheet, and go back the very next day, if that hive is healthy, that whole frame will be drawn down, and that's where you're going to find the queen. Not on the left side of the hive or the right side. She prefers new wax. So bees will actually show you and tell you things if you just pay attention.
Don, how do you recommend on banking queens if you need to do so?
I don't think I would even try banking queens until you get up to a couple thousand hives and you can't sell the bees. For the simple reason, the queen has got an ovaries. I've banked queens in the past. You could bank, if you know what you're doing, anywhere from 300 to 500 queens in a hive. But you got to know what you're doing because you can go in the springtime and have a lot of them dead. That's the number one reason why everybody that's commercial beekeepers coming out of South Georgia or out west or anywhere, they have that edge. They're banking queens that they didn't sell in the fall. So the ovaries have stopped until spring again. There's nobody going to guarantee that it's going to go back the way it was. A lot of times that queen don't lay as good the first year or the second year. You know, when you bank them, then that ovary stops. They don't start back like they was. And that number one reason I don't ship breeder queens. If a person doesn't want to drive over here and pick up a 1 or 2 or a dozen breeder queens, I'm not shipping them. I want them to see the laying pattern, see the color of the queen, see how she's performing. That way, you don't know what the mailman's going to do. He could toss it down there, left it in the mail truck, had lunch, it got overheated. So queens are very touchy. I wouldn't even think about taking the time to bank a queen until you've been in business for at least 5 years. And I don't think you'll have the problem not selling your bees out.
You're the funniest little person.
Hey, Seth, can you please mute your microphone? We're picking up a lot of feedback from you.
We're getting some good questions tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, again.
Keep them coming.
What's your experience with wax dipping hive bodies?
Wax, dipping hive bodies in wax?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. First of all, the number one reason bees are dying is because of moisture. When you seal the wax on both sides of that box, it won't wick away any moisture. I learned that by the mistake of painting the bottom on the inside of lids many years ago. I lost a lot of hives because condensation drips down on the bees, and then when it's cold, it kills them. I try to tell a lot of times people to ask questions. Think about a tree in the woods. Have you ever seen a tree in the woods where you got a good strong hive with a metal lid or queen excluder, screen bottom board, wax sides? No. No one's even asked about ventilation. You will talk about ventilation. If you don't ventilate that hive, since we're talking about moisture, that hive is going to die on you. I mean, bees will die here in Georgia at 40 degrees, but they'll live in Alaska at 40 below. But, you know, it's because of the moisture. Put you a 1-inch hole underneath the handhold. We leave our hive top feeders on the hive year round. It's got 2 1-inch holes in the back. If you've got the bottom opened up 3 inches, you get an updraft just like a chimney. It ventilates all that moisture out. Bees, at the very most, they'll go into a suspended state. I learned that when I was 13 years old. I mean, it was stupid. I went out there because I listened to a lot of people. I lived in Ohio. Temperature dropped way down below 32. It was probably around 25. I went out there around 9 o'clock. I had 2 hives that was dead. I went in and talked to my dad. I said, I got a couple hives out there dead. He said, well, pick them up, bring them in the barn, set them in there, and we'll use them in the spring. Well, I went out there and I dumped all the bees out on a pile. I had cement blocks there. Well, by 11 o'clock, the sun had come out. And I walked out there around lunchtime, and here I had a pile of bees just slowly starting to move around out there. So I picked some up, put them in my hand, and the heat of my hand, they come a little bit more alive. So I went in and talked to my dad about it. He says, put the boxes back, dump the bees back in. Those hives actually survived. Bees get to a certain temperature, and they go in that suspended state. Now, if they got moisture on them and they look wet and mildewy look, they're not going to come back to life. If they're dry and just in that dry state or that suspended state, they'll come back on you. That's why I keep telling people, I'm no master beekeeper. The things that I'm telling you is things that I've seen, things that work, things that don't work. If I can save you money, you're gonna get somebody else, and you're gonna mentor them and say, don't spend your money on this, do this.
So you're saying, go ahead. Sorry.
Does painting do the same thing? Doesn't painting seal the hives as well?
Painting, yes, that seals it up. I paint the outsides, but now the bottom board is the only exception. I paint the complete bottom board, and I do that for 2 reasons. It keeps the moisture coming up off the ground, off the bottom, and also it keeps all the cracks on that bottom board sealed to where you don't have any place for wax moth eggs or small hive beetle. And it's easy to clean that way. But all the boxes, nope, just paint the outside, not the inside.
So then the wood would take some of the moisture away. Then the inside of the wood would unpainted wood surface would soak some of the moisture up. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the wood surfaces themselves will wick away from the moisture. If you're running old, that's another reason I got rid of inner covers. Run them away 40 years ago. Go out there in the cold weather and pull the inner cover off and put your hand on it. You're going to see droplets of water. Bees breathe, and when that moisture rises, it condensates on that lid. That's another reason to get rid of it. And most of them inner covers are made out of masonite, which is waterproof.
What about a screened inner cover?
Well, you don't need a screen intercover. I mean, I'm not quite following where you're going. If we're running our high top feeders, which has got screen on them, it's got a 3-inch screen. But now, if you're going to run something like a screen there, I think all I would do is I would put a upholstery tack on each corner under the lid without an intercover and just leave it cracked. I would do that rather than try to put a whole screen on there. The intercovers will cause your moisture. Screen bottom boards, you know, I have people coming up here and they swear by them. They've got this little insert they like to put in there. The minute you do that, you isolate an area where the bees can't clean. They have to clean that bottom board. Go out there in the summer and listen. You hear them scrubbing and scratching in there. That's what they're doing. They're cleaning. When you got that insert in there, they can't get in there and they can't clean. Even the dead that fall down. Particles get on the sides, get under that stuff. It makes more headaches than it's worth. It hasn't increased any production that I've seen. I tried them for a while. I run them 3 months and got rid of them.
Hey, Don, on the topic of ventilation, would you put a hole in every one of the boxes going up or just the top and bottom?
I like to put one on every single one. And the reason I do that is I grew up in Ohio, and up in Ohio, even people up there, they'll sleep with their window in the wintertime, cracked an inch. When they get too cold, they get up and they close the window. Now, what bees do, if you put a hole in there, they'll propolize it shut. And I could say I've seen that firsthand because I had out yards in Ohio, and one yard I forgot to go check, make sure I had all the entrance reducers in. And I was running 10-frame hives. And when I walked up to a couple of them, at 16 1/4 across the front, it was sealed shut. Only 3 inches in the middle was open. The bees took a 3/4 opening and closed it down like that, clear across that hive. So that tells you bees will close that hive up. And we put screens across our 1-inch hole to keep mice out. And occasionally they will propolize that screen shut. So you can always clean that off.
Yeah, here's an example of that, Don. Can you see that?
A little higher, Joe. A little higher. There you go. Oh, yeah.
That's the hole going up in out of the bottom of the hive top feeder. They didn't want the ventilation.
Guess they weren't hungry. Okay. Don't be shy. Come on. Who has a question?
If you don't ask these questions, you don't jog the sawdust loose in my head, because when you say something, I remember what I've done years ago, and I'll give you an answer for it, whether you like it or not.
You said earlier no metal lids either. So what are you doing for that?
I use, what we used to use is plywood. And we actually switched from plywood to a Vantech. A Vantech is, it comes in a green, it's like strand board. And they have a thing on YouTube, they show what a Vantech underwater 2 years didn't swell up. I tried it when I first got some, and without even painting it, 6 months to a year down the road, it was absolutely flat. And I bought brand new plywood, and in 3 months to 6 months, corners would curl up a little bit. So I end up getting a Vantech by accident. A lot of it is throwaway stuff around houses where they're building. Go around where they're building houses, they'll give it to you, haul it off. It's the greatest stuff. It works good for bottom boards. You'll have to put a brace across it for a bottom board, but for lids, it stays flat, believe me, and it's cheap. But you cannot have too much ventilation. You can have not enough, and the bees will die from it.
Don, with your experience, you're selling nukes, and you cut a queen cell out of a frame, got a hole in that frame. Would you pull that out of a nuke that you was going to sell and put it in a junk box, or not a problem just leaving that hole in there? Where you cut the queen cell out?
You mean if I sold a nuke and I cut the queen cell out of it? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't sell that particular one. I would wait a few days because usually a day to 2 days it's sealed shut again. They draw new wax down in it.
Mine never close the holes.
Well, if they're not closing the holes, then you either are not feeding them or there's not enough honey flow coming in. That's the same thing that people, when I did the fishing line to reinforce wax on full sheets, they said it was the bees was cutting fishing line, cutting the wax out around the fishing line. That only happens if there's not enough honey flow coming in or if you're not feeding them. If you're feeding them, they make wax. That's what they do.
So are you saying, do you feed your bees even when you've got supers on them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I have people coming here a lot of times and they'll see us out there feeding 55 gallons of sugar. I'll walk up to the house and I'll get a honey bear. It's got honey in it. And I can tell you, and some of my students will tell you, they probably see me doing it here. I can tell you when a honey flow starts and it stops within 10 to 15 minutes. I'll walk out to a hive and I'll put a line of honey right across the entrance. If there's a honey flow, they'll climb right through it. They won't touch it. The minute it stops, they'll line up like pigs and start eating it and hauling it in. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I've done. It's trial and error. Bees are not going to mix honey and sugar. They won't do it. So you've got to get in your head, what is it that you want to do? If you want to sell bees, feed them. Don't worry about what people say. They ain't going to take the sugar anyhow. We are splitting and splitting and splitting. And 3 years ago, we made about 1 ton to 2 tons of honey. And we are splitting our hives down as fast as we can split them. I think on the average from spring, one particular hive will get split 40 times before the fall. And if you're going to sell bees, don't let people tell you you can't sell bees after spring. I sell more bees in September, usually at the end of August, all the way into November. Any of my students that's been here can tell you that. They can see the boxes full in the spring, empty towards fall. And, you know, I'll tell you right on here, because this goes up to YouTube. And I tell every student that comes in my yard, a lazy beekeeper will make $3,000 a week. 2 to 3,000 ain't nothing. I mean, in 15 minutes, I'll make 25, 30 splits. 175 a split. I mean, you can do the math on that. Joe, just ask Joe what he can do. I mean, I've got a lady over in South Carolina, started with 4 nukes. Within 3.5 months, she was up to 60 hives. Jamie started out with a few packages and built numbers up. Jamie was worried about if he could sell them because everybody goes down the same road. They got a wife, they got a husband, and they're putting all this money in bees, and they don't see nothing coming out. So they want to start selling to see if they can sell. And pretty soon, your sales keeps you so busy, you can't build your hives back because you sell faster than you can make them.
Here, Mikey.
Well, I hope I
Jamie's still here. Jump in there, Jamie. Tell her what happened to you. I think Jamie's still in here. Yeah, Jamie's here. Unmute your mic. Tell her.
Got to unmute the mic. Sorry about that. You better be careful because you'll sell down your stock and you won't have enough to rebuild. So you've got to, you got to have equipment to keep stuff split out, and you need to set aside a certain number that you're not going to sell below. Because if you're not, I mean, stuff will go down the road. Like Don says, people puts money in your face and it's hard to turn down. Don, real quick, you talked about that Advantech being green. Over here, it's actually orange. So it may be different colors in different places depending on where it's actually manufactured. So
no, that orange is not the Advantech brand. Advantech comes in a brown, rusty-looking brown, and it comes in a sort of a aqua blue or black, aqua green. That is the Advantech brand. It's just like a donut made at a Walmart is going to have a little different, look than one made at Kroger or something like that. It's probably a knockoff of it or something like it. We got some over here that Builder Supply sells, and theirs is not painted. It's just like a prime color. it's not as good as Advantech, but you're buying a name brand. But try to find scrap wood. You know, scrap Advantech. There's tons of it out there. Anywhere they're building.
You were talking about ventilation a bit ago, and here right now we're in the 0 temperatures. Is there at some point that you have to worry about it being too cold? Because I have not wrapped the hives.
You want to keep your hives?
Yeah.
Don't wrap them.
Okay.
That's just like putting you in a plastic bag and go sit into a snowdrift. You're going to suffocate.
Okay.
The plastic bag is going to become full of water eventually.
So one year we
breathe.
So don't worry about the cold at all?
No.
Okay.
How do you think they heat that hive? They don't have gas in it, you know.
Yeah.
What do you think they do?
They flap their wings.
They eat honey to make a little heat, don't they?
Hmm.
Now tell me what you would think if you had a single-story hive or if you had a double deep. Which one would go through the winter easier?
The double deep?
No.
No?
The single. Because heat rises. A double deep has got more square inches, so the bees eat twice as much to heat that area up.
So reduce them all down to singles?
Yes.
Oh.
I started doing in September, I take all my 8 frames and I make 2 or 3 splits out of them, make them into 5-frame boxes. And I run 5-frame boxes through the winter. In 1992, several beekeepers up north, Michael Bush, Kirk Webster, Michael Palmer, they was losing bees and they thought I was crazy because I'm taking all my bees out of this big box and putting them in a little box. And what are they doing right now? They're running all 5-frame nukes through the winter. The old man must have learned something.
Mm-hmm. So should I do that now, even with as cold as it is?
Well, you're a little late to do it right now. The most I would do is if you got them in a double deep, go out there on a warm day, and if they just got honey on the top, just pry it apart and take out, make sure the bees, are out of the box. And put them in a single story. Lift the box up, see if it's heavy. If it's kind of heavy, you got enough stores in there. The bigger the box, the more it's going to eat.
Okay.
See, it's all, what I'm trying to teach you is common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Everything out there, you can think it out. It's when you overthink and you listen to people. There's a lot of people giving a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation. I try to tell people, they come up here a lot of times, well, this guy said this and this one says this. Ask them, how long have you been doing bees? You got a job? What kind of job do you do? If the guy says, well, I work at General Motors and I got 6 hives and, I lost 3 of them every year or 4 of them every year, that's not the person you want to listen to. Mm-hmm. I've made my mistakes. I'm not going to admit I make a lot of mistakes. I still make mistakes, but I'm trying to help you not make the same mistakes. I make a living at this. 365 days a year, I put my family, feed them, buy what we need. So it's successful. People's vineyards see it. It works. Simple is usually better than that complicated stuff.
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
Do you have any thoughts on location? We have about 15 hives here. Should we be starting to look at our second location, or is that about enough for one place?
Well, people, a lot of times you're going to have a lot of information. People say, well, you can't have more than this. Well, you stop and think about what I just told you. I'm running 200 to 500 hives. And people's telling, I'm getting robbed all the time. Why? I'm getting robbed. There's a lot of things people tell you that's not true. It's old wives' tales. Most places can handle easily 25 to 50 hives. I usually put 5 or 10 in a new location. If they're halfway decent, then I run it up 25 or 50. The bees will fly out. If there's not much around, they'll fly out to 5 miles. But most of the time, they're running 1 to 3 miles in a circle. So, you can't listen to everybody out there. You don't have to even listen to me. Find one person and listen to one person. Don't listen to 10 people and try 10 different things. That's the only advice I could give. Any more questions? We're getting time to wrap up here.
I think Joe fell asleep.
Joe fell asleep?
No, I didn't. I'm thinking. I'm all time thinking. No, I'm running about 230 here next year in the backyard. I'm not too concerned about it.
Well, Joe's been down here and you walked around my yard. How much robin's going on in my yard, Joe?
I don't understand it, not much. There's a lot of robin goes on in my yard, and I don't understand it. But I've got that down to a science too, I think.
Well, the only problem I have is when Jerry come up here, was ate up with those yellow jackets. We fixed that quick.
They were bad.
It was bad.
Did everybody notice how small the yellow jackets was this year?
No.
Size-wise. Several guys I talked to, way out in Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma City, and they noticed them being small. The yellow jackets up here was small enough to go through 1/8-inch hardware cloths and get the feeders this year.
I had them in my hives, and why is that, or how do I keep them out?
If you had yellow jackets in your hive, that tells me your hive was weak.
Okay.
How often do you change your hive out? You do a complete change out. You know what a complete change out is?
You mean new wood and everything in boxes and frames?
Yeah, you take the original hive and set it in front of the original place and put a new box there or a different box and frame by frame go through it and look at each frame. Check for beetles, check for damage, check for a lot of little things. That you should do minimum every 2 months. You should go through the hive at least 14 days. Every 14 days, you don't have to do a change out.
Right.
Go through it, at least the center 4 or 5 frames, because that is the core of the hive is where you'll find your queen cells as a rule, because they want it just like a hospital. They want it the warmest place. And that's why screen bottom boards don't do good for if you want to make bees early, because you got too much ventilation in there and moisture. And when you're doing your hives and your setups, you should set your stands so that the bottom board should be about even with your knees. That way, on a single story, you don't have to bend over very far. You can put one box on top and it's still comfortable. You don't want to lift, if you put your arms straight out, you don't want to lift any higher than that. If you lift any higher than that, you're going to throw yourself off balance. You're going to hurt your back. You're going to drop a box too.
Don will give you a tip and everybody else a tip on how to keep the ants out of the hive top feeders. Works great.
House screen.
Nope.
Cinnamon.
Nope. Go to the hardware store and buy these sticky mouse traps. You can buy 2 of them for 50 cents. And you stick them in there, them ants are gone in 2 days. They'll stick all over that thing and they're done.
That's a good one.
Stick them where, Joe?
I stick it in the hive top feeder, away from, the open end. Open end. Laying down there, they stick on that, they're gone in 2 days.
But we've learned this by experience in the last year or two. If you use the regular hardware cloth on the vent holes, on the feeders, the ants get in. But if you use house screen, it's a lot smaller. The screens are so small the ants can't get in.
Yeah, I've got house screen on mine now too.
It works on it.
Yeah, I've already changed. But if you got a problem you can't get rid of, the sticky mouse trap will kill them in about 2 days.
There you go. Well, it's 9 o'clock, folks. Anybody else got a final question? We're going to wind up. Well, I enjoyed everybody here and everybody's question. And if you haven't give your shout out, now's the time to do it. Your shout out with your web page, what you're doing, get it out there so that you get a little advertising.
We have a Facebook page at Private Valley Apiaries.
All right.
I sold 3 nukes and 10 queens this week, Don. They said they seen me on Bee Chat.
Did you? I could have probably sold 25 or 50 in the last month. I'm not doing it no more. And one thing before I leave is I don't believe in combining. If you got a weak hive, I don't believe in combining. A lot of people like to combine hives. Sometimes that's basically backing up, and sometimes you end up killing queens in both hives.
Send them cells this way, Don. I'll try to run me out of bees.
All right, I think that's it. It's 9 o'clock. I think we'll call it a wrap.
We'll call it a wrap. Well, as soon as you get a chance, get her up to YouTube and we'll get on it.
It'll be there.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
All right.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Thank you.
When's the next chat?
Don and I will decide that, and I will post it on the Facebook page.
Thank you.
He's already gone. See that?
Yeah, he's gone. He's ready to go to bed.
Yes, past his bedtime. Take care, everyone.